Hello, I'm Super Orange Cat here. I'm today covering Toonami's ratings from this past Saturday, April 9th, 2022. Let's start at the top of the block. At the top of the block, we have Shenmue at a .08, Attack on Titan at a .07, The Assassination Classroom at a .08, Made in Abyss at a .06, One Piece at a .06, Naruto Shippuden at a .06, and Cowboy Bebop at a .04. Overall, the one thing to easily point out this week was the big drop for Shenmue, which is interesting considering almost nothing else really dropped. A couple shows went down like 1/100th, but the rest were really just steady, which shows that even though Shenmue definitely dropped and fell from the last week, the retention of the block is still pretty solid, which is an indicator that we have a rock solid audience for the other shows on the block, which is going to get a little interesting with Made in Abyss leaving the block now, and that being replaced next week with Lupin the Third Part 6. But yeah, and Shenmue, I want to say, is next week the finale? It's either next week or the week after that that's the finale. And when that happens, that's going to lead to an interesting decision on which show to put up next, considering that this is the lead-off show that will be leaving the block. And I think part 2 of the season, the final season of Attack on Titan, ends pretty soon as well. So again, that's another question that Toonami's going to have to solve. Their top 2 shows in the block are going to leave soon due to running out episodes. And that also, again, talking about Made in Abyss, I'm going to gravitate towards it because it was the season 1 finale, and I can, if you want this video to last like an hour and a half, I can talk about all the things I absolutely loved about this episode. Breathtakingly amazing. It really, I mean, and there is a damn good reason why nearly every image, definitely for these weekly ratings recaps I've done, outside of showing the actual blurb from of Showbuzz Daily, has been Made in Abyss. This is far and away my favorite show in the block, and it's been probably my favorite show in the block since season 1 of The Promised Neverland. In fact, the show in many ways actually reminds me of season 1 of The Promised Neverland. Long story short, what I like best about this episode is it recontextualizes what was, you could say, a very trope-filled shonen-esque journey to find yourself, like journey to find something else, but really we're finding ourselves with Rico and Reg, and recontextualized it in terms of, I'm going to try to avoid spoilers as much as I can here, of another character, what another character wanted to have in this character's life but couldn't, and you see now through this character's eyes, and it's so breathtaking because you don't really see this anymore as two people who function a lot like siblings going to basically the center of the earth, wherever the bottomless abyss is, to find one character's mother. We're now seeing it as one character seeing these two characters together as, and this show kind of implies that Rico and Reg might end up being a couple or something. You know, it definitely helps when one of the final jokes of this season is Rico looking at Reg's erect penis. You know, outside of that, again, and that's one thing I kind of think could end up being a down, something that brings Made in Abyss down for me when it cuts to season 2, if Rico and Reg become like a couple or anything, because that's something I thought Promise Neverland did an amazing job of avoiding. Like, it would be so super easy for them to fall back and have a love triangle between Emma, Norman, and Ray. The show, but Promise Neverland, even in season 2, I'll give season 2 this credit, did an amazing job of avoiding that. Although some people can argue that how Emma talked about Norman in some instances, that she might have personally been in love with him. But again, that's all conjecture, and that's not like official canon or anything, you know? And again, I absolutely love this because, again, of that recontextualization of the show from a basic shonen to kind of a shoujo in a weird way, but not like an over the top way that like Fena was. It's hard to explain it, but Made in Abyss season 1 finale was absolutely amazing. And outside of that, the big questions are next week, how does Lupin the Third Part 6 do? It will be a straight replacement. It will be on the block at 1:30 in the morning, which was Made in Abyss's old slot. So, just thinking here, I'm gonna guess it also gets a .06. That's the thing, Man in Abyss didn't see and jump because this episode was hyped up. Toonami cut specific promos for the season 1 finale. It didn't help the ratings. But again, when Shenmue can't even pull up a .1 for you, a .06 is probably as good as it really gonna get from that. And like I said, my current uh my current bar for what's a good leadoff or a good night for Toonami is the leadoff show gets at least a .12. I dropped that from a .18 after Family Guy got pulled from Adult Swim. And the second one being just good, solid retention for the other shows throughout the night, at least up until the reruns, which at this point is technically just Cowboy Bebop. And again, we have that question of what's Lupin the Third gonna do next week? And then perhaps a much larger questions will be how do we replace Shenmue? How do we replace Attack on Titan? Like I said, I don't think Uzumaki's here until October. I really don't think we're getting Housing Complex C anytime that soon. We probably get that probably also around in October. I could see them trying to do Uzumaki followed by Housing Complex C in fall as like a spooky schedule or something. Outside of that, maybe we get something out of left field like Megalobox Season 2, or considering we're not getting anything Crunchyroll or Funimation anymore, probably just something deep in Sentai Filmworks catalog. That seems to be where we're going here. Again, because I believe Made Abyss was Sentai. I'm not exactly certain, but you can look at their catalog of shows, perhaps shows that are a couple years old, ones that had a dub, those who aren't being necessarily talked about as much, but are still like within the last few years recent. I think that's the bullseye for what I could see Konami replacing Made in Abyss with. Not Made in Abyss, replacing Shenmue and Attack on Titan with. And again, that's going to trigger a reshuffling the schedule. I don't see Lupin the Third staying as early as 1:30. Yet again, all that leaves is Assassination Classroom as the only solid show to really lead off the block. And then maybe One Piece? Does One Piece still have the overall cachet to lead off the block? Especially what would almost certainly have to be a doubleheader. That's one thing people talk about. Is One Piece supposed to be a doubleheader? I still think because of the pacing, it kind of has to. It would be really weird to just have maybe one chapter of manga per week of One Piece. That would be too slow to air. But I digress. A lot of questions here coming up with Toonami, and it's gonna be interesting to see how they will be solved. So, what do you guys think? Leave your comments, leave your opinions down below. I appreciate your support. I am the Super Orange Cat, and that is all.